Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We have a fun reel today. It's one we don't see much of, but it's certainly one that is of interest to all. This is a Triton Speedmaster. It's a Shimano reel with a fighting drag on it, a Fighting Star drag. And a lot of people don't understand exactly how this one works. So among other things that we're going to do today is we're going to show you how it works. But the Star Fighting Drag is as close as you're going to get to a lever drag reel in a non-lever drag. And a lot of people think that the Star adjuster here is the way to tighten the drag washers. Well, it's not. This is only going to move about 180 degrees. It'll move in and it'll move out. When you move it out, you've released the tension on the drag, and when you move it in, you've tightened it. Well, of course, drag washers have a lot more room one way or another than that 180 degree swing. You'll see how. But this, to adjust your preset on this, you actually use the Star wheel here, or the round wheel that's serrated here. And you would do that by pushing that in, engaging the preset nut, and turning forward or backward to control your preset strike. Very interesting little design in the reel. We're going to take this reel apart. We're going to show you how to service it and how to keep it running for a long time to come. Well, if you like these types of videos, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That way you'll see the reels that I'm posting, and you'll get an idea of which ones you might want to learn more about. Maybe even have one, and you'll be able to watch how it gets serviced. And well, that's kind of what this channel is designed to do. It's designed to teach you how to do it yourself. Your subscriptions are appreciated, and I encourage each and every one of you to subscribe, and thank you for it. This is a 10mm screw cap that's holding the handle on, so we're going to take that off. And one of the things I want to tell you right now is take pictures, because especially if you're working on a reel like this that you don't know much about, you certainly want to get underneath the reel and have a plan in case something goes pop or you lose your thinking in terms of how the reel goes back together again or anything like that. Those pictures will be invaluable. When I take my parts off, I put them into a parts tray, and that way I know where they are when they are time to go to reassemble the reel. There's a little washer that goes under the handle, and then this is that adjuster. So it's kind of got a key. It almost looks like it's rectangular. You have a big spring. That was what you saw me push in and out. And this is your preset nut right here. That's actually what's tightening the drag down. So your wheel, we'll take it without the spring, your wheel is going to sit over that, and you're going to be able to move that nut counterclockwise to take the tension off, clockwise to tighten it up. And again, that's a preset. And then you'll see an assembly next of when you move this way, you're releasing, and well, I don't have the handle to hold it. When you turn it clockwise, you're tightening against that preset, much like a lever drag where you're in first strike and second strike. Well, to get to that assembly, we want to remove this preset nut. That's also going to be, you're going to be able to do that with a 10mm wrench. And here's a fun one underneath here, if this is like what I'm remembering. It's been a while. There's a cap next. There's a little race in the cap, and there's a little ball bearing in there. That's what's called the first strike bearing. Let's get this off first. We'll put that into the parts tray next to that adjuster wheel, and now this whole adjuster assembly should come up and off. There's a lot of gunk and debris on here. I suspect that's what I'm getting in trouble with. All right, let's take it off this way. There's a ball bearing under this cap. Please be aware of that. kind of an unusual piece. I'm not quite certain even how or why it's the way it is, but it is. So if you found a little ball bearing running around on your desk somewhere, this is where it came from. I see it there. I'm just trying to do this. This has probably been peened down. I'm guessing that's why we're having a little bit of an issue here. Just be patient, take your time. Here's that ball bearing right there. You can see it nestled in a little cavity there. And when you go to reinstall this cap has a little slot right there where that ball bearing is going to pop out. Alright, let's lift this up now. And again, there's your ball bearing. And I like to kind of separate that right now and put it into my parts tray so that it doesn't fall as it bangs as I kind of move the thing in and out and around. No, it's not wanting to go anywhere at the moment. We'll just leave it there. Okay, there's a spacer that came out of the top here, goes in there. And underneath, well, that's very much reminiscent of the ramps that are present in lever drag reels. They have two pyramids on them on both sides. Okay. On this side, we have the corresponding ramp as well, and you'll see if you look at this closely that it's thin here and thick here. So as you're turning this in a clockwise manner with those other ramps that are going to nest up against this, it's compressing this more and giving you more drag. And as you're loosening it, it's going down the ramp, allowing the pressure to come off of that. And while that pressure release is the kind of the way that you would go first strike, second strike, or reversed on a lever drag. Well, there's some stuff that's accumulated here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a brush. I'm just going to brush off the threads so that we can get to the rest of this reel. So very, very interesting design here. And I don't know why we keep getting stuck here, but we do. Oh, there we go. All right. Ramp, and then a thin washer underneath the ramp. And now we can pretty much service this reel as a basic Shimano Triton Speedmaster reel, because the unique part of this reel is that Star Fighting drag. So Scott out in California found this one at a West Coast flea market, and he's found some rather unusual reels. And this one, from what I understand, these are very popular over in the UK and Europe. I haven't seen many of these here. I've seen a fighting drag in some of the Shimano freshwater bait casters, actually. They're in the Magnum series. You can find that also on a Shimano Bantam. And those reels were made in the late 1980s. And I didn't look up when this one was made. It wouldn't surprise me if it was around the same time. It's one of those innovations. It's kind of neat. But, well, sometimes they're not appreciated, or they just don't sell well and they get discontinued and you don't see them again. And I guess it was before the heyday of, well, lever drag reels. With the small chassis and the advent of braid and the like, why have a reel set up this way when the lever drag reel is actually pretty easy, or much easier, I would think, to manufacture than this one was. Alright, we've taken the 4 long case screws and the 2 short case screws off, so now we can remove the gear side plate. Underneath, you can see it's got a huge main gear. This is a ball bearing. You have a rather weak gear shaft there. What we're going to do is we'll remove all these pieces and parts, we'll clean them, and we'll make sure that this one's ready to go fishing again. We'll start by taking off those 2 springs that control the yoke. And it's unusual, but I don't normally need 2 parts trays, but I'm going to use a second parts tray just to keep those internal parts separated from that Fighting Drag one. There's an awful lot of parts on that Fighting Drag. We're going to remove the bearing. Again, you want to note the orientation and the sequence of the pieces. So the bearing is the one that's up top. Then we have about 4 or 5 of these tension washers. They're all, they're not flat. They're concave or convex. They generally nestle front to back, outside, inside kind of a thing like that. And then it's a dual pair of them. We're going to put those into the tray. I oiled the bearing. I'll put that into the tray. I'm going to remove the jack. We'll clean that. Notice one side of that jack is longer than the other. It's hard to misinstall this one because the flat side is going to go against the case. But just take your pictures so that you know where you are with that. Alright, let's see if we can get the main gear off. Probably not. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. So let's take it off piece by piece. We have a cap washer. That cap washer has a bell on the top of it. Now we can pull the rest of it out. Underneath here we have the click ratchet for your anti-reverse dog. Wipe that off. We have a backing washer here. There's a lot of grease, and I think most of these washers may even be felt. As I mentioned, it's been a while since I've been inside that. Up there's some kind of a fabric, but when you take these off, remember the sequence. So you have the cap washer, and then you have that one. The middle washer is called an eared washer. It's got 2 points, and those points face down when you go to install the reel. This is a hard fabric, almost like a carbon washer. Don't try to flex this washer. Actually, this one has a little bit of flexibility. Most of the time, these do not have a lot of flexibility, and if you try to do it one way or another, you're going to snap the washer. And then we have one more underneath here. So for the most part, these washers have been in good condition. The bottom washer has 2 tags on it that are going to fit in that groove. Okay, so it went bottom washer, round washer with the square peg, hard washer. We have the washer with the prongs, top washer, cap washer, and all of that goes inside the main gear, and this goes behind the main gear. So for those of you that were trying to take pictures or understand how that went, that's how it goes. We're going to remove the yoke, called the yoke because, well, it looks like an oxen's yoke, and the pinion gear. Check the pinion gear, make sure it's clean. This one is clean. Check all the teeth, make sure they're not jammed with old greases, and make sure that they're uniform. And we can do a little house cleaning here. We have a lot of old sticky grease on here, so we're going to just use some penetrating oil to break that grease up. We'll come back with a paper towel now, and while it's dissolved, mop up. Now I didn't remove that AR dog. You can. Just test, make sure that it works nice and easily, which it does. And we can oil the bearing here. We're going to have to go to the other side to service the spool, but you can oil that bearing while you're here doing that kind of a thing. Alright, the anti-reverse dog ratchet goes on. It's got a square set, and you need to make sure that the square is seated onto the gear post. Check the teeth here. If you find that the teeth are clogged, get a hard brush, pull it through the channels of the teeth, and that'll free up any of the debris that may be in those channels. This one doesn't have much of anything inside of it. I'm going to call that one good. Then we're going to re-lubricate that. We're going to use fishing wheel grease, and in this case I'm going to use Penn Precision wheel grease for that. And we're going to get a good amount on there since, well, most of it had either leaked out, as we saw with the old stuff on the back of the case, or it just evaporated, one or the other. Alright, we said that there was a fabric washer. It's a fabric washer, so on the fabric washers you can put some grease on there. I'm going to use a drag grease for that. This is Cal's Universal Drag Grease. Wipe it on, wipe it off, don't have too much laying on there. And then let's go back, and we're thinking about how we put this on or off. This came off next, the yoke. So let's make sure we grease that up nicely. And on the yoke itself, you're going to see, if you look over the top, that there's two sloping ramps here. Those go inside, as does the slot for the pinion gear. Take a little bit of grease and get some on that shoulder. And then we're going to also take the free spool release jack, get grease on the back side of that, and we can start to reinstall here. The free spool release jack goes in first. Looks like that. Take your pinion gear and load that over. Make sure that your gear goes on. Oops, got ahead of myself here. Bring that down. Always keep that jack up while you're doing this. It's going to be a lot easier to seat. We'll take the main gear in next, and we're going to merge that with the pinion gear like that. And then we're going to continue with these drag washers. So the next one in was that fabric washer with the ears, so we'll go grease that up like we did the last one. Find the two slots and get that in. You want to use the greases because the grease is going to keep those flexible. They won't dry out. This is a non-permeable one. You do not need to grease that. And now we're looking for the one that has the two tabs that's bent. That's going to go into the holes in the main gear. We'll do this one more time with the grease. A little bit of grease on, rub it off. If it gets to be too much, go ahead and wipe a little bit of it off. Put that on, and then the bell washer has the one with the raised top that faces out. So that's how your drag set comes together. Here we go. And this one's getting a little dirty, so let's get this one off the bench. We have a little bit of dirt, speaking of dirt, on the inside of this case, so we'll do the same thing. We'll use a little penetrating oil to loosen it up. And I'm going to use a cotton swab for a little bit of mop-up duty here. Okay. When you go to set this, you need to merge the stud on the eccentric jack with the hole in the yoke, that hole. The only thing we need to do here, put the springs on both sides. This does not have an instant anti-reverse. It's before those became common. So you're dependent on that, that spring-loaded dog in the back there. Mop up a little bit of residuals there. I'll put a little bit of grease into where the spool is going to seat. And we can go ahead and align this with the holes in the frame. And you want to make sure that you lock that in. If you do not have a nice tight finish, well, then you're not locked in. If we spin now, we should see that the main gear is going to turn. And if we bring it back to free spool, the main gear should not be turning. So that has merged properly with the yoke and the free spool jack. All right, we got 4 of these big screws. We're going to put those in I like to put them in opposite sides. That way I can keep equal tension on it while I go to fill the rest of them in. I got a little bit nervous there for a moment because I thought, well, where did the other parts go? I was looking in my parts tray, my second parts tray. Almost forgot that I use it as a second one. Okay. Fun little design in the reel. So I'm going to put the 4 big ones in, and then if you recall, we have the 2 smaller ones that go in from the back side of this reel. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're having some problems with it, if you leave those in the comments section, I will try to answer those questions for you. I don't know them all. Some folks were asking me some questions the other day about dating a damn quick reel, and I don't know of any system to do it. I do know that I'm a member of ORCA, the Old Reel Collectors Association, and they have some documents there like catalogs, and sometimes you can find like a damn quick catalog from say 1975 or something. You go look and see if the model that you're interested in is in that catalog. That would give you an approximate date, but I don't know any different way of dating that. Okay, we said the next 4 things were those tension washers. I'm going to put them in as a stack. I showed you how I'm going to do that before. I'll put that bearing in. You can make sure you test the bearing. These are working fine. And make sure you test them. And I've already oiled that, so we don't need to do anything with that. Alright, then what we want to do is kind of play along with the rest of it now. We're going to put the bearing washer on. That goes next. And then this ramp with the points up goes. And that's going to be what's limiting the star adjuster. I know we have, these are really tight here. I had trouble on the way out with this one too. There you go, that's better. That's going to limit the throw of that star adjuster. It's only going to go about 180 degrees there. Next up then is the star adjuster with the prong on the back side. Remember, we still got that little ball bearing. I don't know how well you can see it, but I can see it. It always gets me nervous. That's in there. And you can rotate that so that it's in the cavity well. I'm trying to do my best to clean this star adjuster off without hitting that bearing. I'd say that we'll call that a success. And then go ahead and get this cap. Find the slot in that cap. This is going to work on a square part, but you got to rotate your star adjuster so that you line this cap and that little bearing up so that it sits flush. And again, I think this probably got overworked at some point, but we'll just be patient, work it on. It will get on there eventually. There we go. And you can see that that bearing is in that cap right there. All right. Next up then would be this preset adjuster. This is the one that the wheel is going to turn. That was an oops. There's a washer that goes under this cap. So now I get to get nervous all over again with that little bearing. So let's remove the cap. This is one of the benefits of using a parts tray. You do get to see what's in that parts tray. And you do get to see sometimes that you left something in there that should have come out. All right, this little washer goes in there. And now we can do this again. Well, practice makes perfect. We've already practiced this once already. See if we can't get this on a little bit easier this time. There we go. Back, it is new. All right. Next up then is that spring. Oh, it's the preset. That's where we were starting. The preset nut goes next. And this is the one that's going to put the tension on the drag washers. So it's not going to be the star adjuster. And it's easy enough for those of us that have fished star adjusters most of our life to assume that it's going to be the star adjuster that is going to tighten the drags. Alright, I wasn't getting that to thread easily, that's why I do it by hand, to make sure that the threads and the nuts are running the right way. Now you can either use a 10mm nut here or a wrench to tighten it down, or you can just put the wheel on without the spring and I'll kind of get it right. Alright, just snugging it up. Our spring goes on next. Then we put the adjuster on, the wheel. Make sure that it's seated nice and flush. On top of that comes this backing washer, then the handle, then the cap. What a journey to and from. Same thing with this cap. Make sure that you've got this tightened properly and hand thread it to make sure that it's threading easily. It's so easy to cross strip these caps, and if you do, you start tearing up the threads on the post. And then, well, you generally wind up having to replace the post. This one's just being problematic for whatever reason. There you go. I think we got it that time. Yep, there you go. All right. And then we'll just use our wrench to tighten this down. And if you line this square side or flat side with perpendicular to that hole, this cap should go on. And you should have the line, which we do, for that screw. That's this side of the reel. Interesting. Well, we got to do the spool from the other side. So let's go over there. There's 4 screws on this side. You need to remove those. Triton was one of the best series that Shimano put out, and it was one of the first series where they started using the graphite frames and the like. And these are, well, they're testimony to how long they can last and how well they were made. These screws here are buggered up. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get these out. You shouldn't have an issue with them because they are in plastic or graphite. Somebody's clearly over tightened that one, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to do anything with this. We may have to let that run. Ah, we got it. Wow. Holy cow. I think that was probably the last attempt before it all butterflied. So, snug, tight is fine. Over tight is not. There's no benefit to over tightening them, unless you want to watch me try and figure it out on video. we probably got this one tight too. I'm wondering if somebody, oh, yeah, somebody who serviced this reel in the past may have used a mechanical screwdriver. It's quite possible. Quite honestly, that's a lot of torque on these screws, and it almost tells me that somebody was using a mechanical device to tighten those down. All right, well, Scott, we're lucky. We're going to be able to get your spool side serviced. All right, this side plate should come off now. All 4 pieces are in my parts tray. I'm going to move the parts tray off to the side again. We should be able to bring this out now. Bring the spool out. The spool has got a bearing on it. And again, you can see if we had to make a judgment that said leave it alone, we've already oiled this bearing from the gear side. We've already got grease onto the spool shaft from the gear side. So the only thing that was really missing here was a little bit of grease onto the stud here, and a little bit of oil into this bearing here. So that might have been something that we would have to sacrifice in order to save the reel from itself. A little bit of oil onto the click mechanism will also be of benefit. And we can just go ahead and put this right back on. This time around, we certainly won't over tighten the screws, and we'll make sure they're tight, but certainly not going to over tighten them. And then we'll give this whole reel a test, see how we did. So much of the stuff that I see come into my shop is just examples of what you shouldn't do, and maybe that's how we learn, right? I get some stuff that comes in that the pieces are in the wrong order. Pieces are missing. Those of you that saw that one video on the Yvette, how do you lose a free spool jack? Kind of interesting. I don't know, but somebody misplaced it, closed the reel up, probably sold it on eBay, said something's not working with the free spool, and left it for lost, right? Don't know. All right. So what have we done? We've taken the reel completely apart. We show you how that fighting drag system works. Closest thing to a lever drag without it being a lever drag. And kind of an interesting engineering accomplishment. Kind of fun. And now you know how to service it if you find a reel like this, or if you own a reel like this. Okay, last of the screws. And we'll give it a test. Let's just move some of this stuff out of the way. While I'm doing this, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel, all police, fire, rescue, first aid, everybody who helps keep us safe. Thank you for everything it is that you do. Okay, here we go. We're in free spool now. We told you that you have to mesh the free spool cam with the slot in the jack. We'll give it a spin. Spins nice and easily. We're going to go forward to engage. Engage the reel. Test now. See if that's the drag you want. Well, it's a very loose drag at the moment. So the first question you ask is it loose because of the engage here? Nope. So go ahead and push down on the wheel and tighten that drag up from the preset standpoint. Back that off to the counterpart. Give it a spin. Okay, there's moderate pressure there. Flip it to the fight side, and it's tight. I can't move now without turning the spool. Want to fight that fish? Don't fiddle around with that wheel. Back it off. And again, now you can see how it'll let the drag loose. Go back to fight, bring it back the other way. Now you're in fight mode. Quite a little innovation there. Very much fun. All right, well that's it. That's your Triton Speedmaster Fighting Star fishing reel. Scott, thanks for finding that and sending that in. It's been a pleasure to work on it. To everybody who's still with me and still watching, thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And to everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.